So I assume that we are now live, and this is the official beginning of the committee meeting. In which case, good evening. Shall we try introductions so we can all make sure that we're all being seen and heard? So I'm Councillor Ian Cassidy, the chair of the committee. We'll go through the councillors first, just for ease.
I'm Councillor PJ Murphy, Councillor Broadway.
Councillor Rebecca Harvey, Avonmore Brook Green.
Councillor Matt Thorley, Parsons Green and Wallen Ward.
And if we go through the officers.
Hi, I'm Hitesh Chalapara, Director of Finance and Governance.
Phil Triggs, Tri-Borough Director for the Treasury and Pensions.
Matt Hobson, Strategic Investment Manager.
Simon Powerful, Pension Fund Manager.
And have we got Mike Adam there? Possibly.
Hi there, Ian.
There we go. Excellent. So obviously this is our first virtual committee meeting. The council, and not just this committee's, but the council's first virtual committee meeting. So hopefully there should be no technical issues. Everything seems to be working fairly well. Apologies for absence. We're all here, so there's no apologies. Declarations of interest. Do we have any declarations of interest?
None from me.
None from me.
I will take that as no declarations of interest. So I think we'll just move straight on to there only is one item on the agenda, item number 3, to delegate decision making. So I think the best idea is if we have Phil Triggs just set the scene a little bit, just to give a little bit of information as to where the pension fund is, given obviously what's happened in terms of the financial markets, etc., and then go into the reasoning behind the decision, and then we can go through any questions if there are any. So I think if Phil wants to give a brief introduction.
Yes, thank you, Chair. And obviously this is a monumental historical moment, given that it's the first, I hadn't appreciated it was the first virtual video conference meeting for the council. So very, very pleased to be involved with that. It's come about really because of the situation with regard to the virus, the fact that there has been a fall in market valuations over the last 3 weeks. We have been holding conference calls with Deloitte and various members of the committee over the last 3 or 4 weeks, really just to keep a handle on the situation, but also to discuss the pending investment strategy, which flows from the actuarial evaluation that was staged last year. It was decided within those telephone conversations with Deloitte and the members and officers that there were opportunities within the investment field such that if we were nimble as a committee, there were various opportunities to take on slight changes in the investment strategy, and those focus really on the appointment of an active manager to take advantage of the pending possible bounce in markets following the quite drastic falls that we've seen, but also to take further advantage of ESG opportunities and conform more with the council's desire to be seen as an exemplar in the environmental and governance fields within pension fund governance. So the result of that was my recommendation to the chair in an email setting out the case for holding these meetings by video conferencing. And thank you, Chair, for arranging this meeting tonight with the various conversations that you've had with others. It would appear that in order to enable the committee to move ahead, as per the only paper that's been tabled on tonight's agenda, the means by which this can be achieved would be a formal delegation of power to the chair in order to take decisions after consultation with the committee in an informal means. So that's the single paper that we have on the agenda tonight. We can obviously discuss other areas briefly under the any other business part of the agenda, but that would be the officer's main recommendation. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Just one thing that David Abbott had sent over to me. There needs to be a slight tweaking of the recommendation in the report so that it reads that the Pension Fund Subcommittee delegate all decision making to the Director for Treasury and Pensions in consultation with the Chair for a period of 6 months, rather than the other way around. Just usually the delegation is given to the chief officers in consultation with the members. So just to make that slight correction as to what's happening. So it's delegating the decision making to the director in consultation with the chair and obviously other members of the committee. Phil, I just wondered if you could just run through very quickly just where we found ourselves in terms of performance, given obviously that we have had, quite an upset in the markets. How has, just for the sort of information of the other committee members, how has the fund held up thus far?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Yes, the fund, I think, is one of the best placed in the RGPS with its diversification that has been enacted over the last 4 or 5 years, and the gradual move away from equities as the main proportion of the investments within the portfolio. Also significant is the change to a low carbon passive strategy, where the oil stocks have not had so much impact on the fund's performance, and that would especially be the case in the last few days, where the price of oil has gone down to a negative figure for the first time in history. So that has reflected well on the performance of the fund. We are obviously drawing up the final accounts for the pension fund as at 31st of March. The draft, I'm hopeful we can issue in the next few days. We're just on the final route or the final lap of closing the accounts and having these draft financial statements ready. The valuations at 31st of March, as I say, will be one of the best in terms of the market falls for Hammersmith and Fulham. Matt Hobson will be able to confirm the figures, but I'm thinking around an 8% drop up to 31st of March in the portfolio valuation as a whole. And then obviously we have seen a bounce in markets in the 22 days of April. So leading up to today, there's been quite a reasonable bounce in those market valuations. And therefore, the final figure as where we are today is not as bad as reflected in the accounts. But as I say, we will get benchmarking figures for the other London authorities and around the country in due course. And I'm pretty confident that Hammersmith will be in the highest percentile in terms of that performance over the last 12 months.
Thanks very much. I think it's just obviously we know what the recommendation is, but just if there are any questions from any other committee members or anything else any of the other officers want to add.
Councillor Cassidy, can I just make a comment to add to what Phil has just said, please? It's a minor point, but the local authority deadlines for closing accounts is shifted backwards. But thanks to the great work the team are doing, we're closing pension fund accounts, at pace, probably faster than most authorities in the country. The other accounts, in terms of the revenue accounts, capital, we're pushing that back a month. So I think it's credit to the team for being on top of that as well.
No, that's great. Thanks very much. That's really good to know as well. And any of the councillors, do we have any questions from anyone?
Ian, just a quick question. When we say informally, does that mean that we will kind of get together as a committee like this and discuss options, then you will make the decision, or will it be informally with you as the chair making decisions? How would it work in practice?
I mean, I think in practice it would be with all committee members. I think informally, rather than this being a formally constituted meeting of the committee, you know, with the kind of full need for papers and agendas and things like this, we can have less formal conversations, whether it's through teams like this or similar to how we've had the conversations I've had with Phil and others when it's been voice conference, whatever works best, I suspect. But it was rather, I think it was just to make sure that we wouldn't have the need to formally constitute a full committee meeting, which obviously then brings about the need for papers and, you know, public notices and things like this, which can slow things down. So it was, I think that's the meaning of the word informally, if that makes sense.
No, makes perfect sense. No, thank you for clarifying.
And if we have anything else from Councillor Murphy, Councillor Harvey, are we all okay?
I'm okay.
Excellent. Well, I think if we want to move to the vote, just I think for clarity's sake, if we actually run through the members of the committee in order, and we can just say whether we agree or not with the decision. So we know the recommendation, it's to delegate decision-making powers to the Director for Treasury and Pensions in consultation with the Chair for a period of 6 months. So I'm happy to agree that. Councillor Murphy?
Agree.
Councillor Harvey?
Agree.
And Councillor Thorley?
Agree.
Excellent. Well, there we go. Decision made, our first virtual council decision.
Are we now the 3 agrees?
4 agrees. Yes. Oh, good.
To be fair, I don't think it's the first council meeting that I did a working group with the Harwood Terrace lot. So I think this might be the first committee we've done.
First committee.
Councillor Coleman did the first one, I think, through this, actually nearly a month ago.
Yeah.
True.
That is true.
But we
so
want
I don't.
audits, you know.
I don't think. Well, the decision's been made. Obviously, that paper's fine. Is there any other business or any other comments from officers or from anyone else, just as to how things proceed from now? I'm seeing some head shaking.
Nothing from officers.
Nothing from Pradesh. Phil, anything, or are you happy?
Just very briefly, Chair, and obviously I'm thwarted on this issue because there's no HR representation, but I am aware that HR have instigated a external review of the Orbis pensions administration carried out by Surrey County Council.
Right. Okay.
I think that's being carried out by an external consultant. Work has been underway today to manage that, obviously with a view to coming back to the committee at a later date. But obviously the means by which business is currently being managed, I don't think it would be relevant for me to decide or have anything delegated to me as regards the future of pensions administration. So that's really my purpose here, is just to put that in the court.
Yeah, no, that's great. Thanks very much.
Sorry, Ian, can I just come in? It's a sudden question. I just thought of it, so my apologies. With the change that it goes to, the decision is now with Phil, officially with Phil. Yeah. What happens if Phil is indisposed? Does that then naturally flow down to his number 2, or would we have to have another committee meeting to agree who should then take on that responsibility? Sorry for a technical question. If it's just delegated down, that's absolutely fine.
That I'm not sure. I think that might be something we might have to take up with Rian. I don't know. Yeah. And is that okay? So we need to ask Rian about that to find out if she could give some advice.
Councillor Cassidy, I think we'll defer to Rhiann's advice, but normally what would happen is it'd be Phil or his nominated rep.
Okay.
But that's what normal procedure is elsewhere. But Rhiann can confirm that for us. And of course, we'll make sure you're fully aware and cited in agreement with the nominated rep. Yeah. It might be Emily, for example, or it might be Matt or something. So, and just one more point, if I may. I think the point Phil made on the admin is a good point, but that is a purely admin issue. It's not a pension fund evaluation issue, just to assure members on that.
Yeah. Okay, that's very helpful. Thanks very much. I'm assuming, I don't know, do we have any other business, any other questions, or in which case, thank you very much.
Chair, just to clarify, with regard to the next Deloitte consultation, that will be next Monday afternoon, 4:30 as usual. We will ensure that invitations are sent out to every party that's represented here tonight.
Okay, excellent.
And Deloitte will manage that. So that will be the next phone conference. It won't be done by video. It's a phone conference. So there will be a telephone number to dial into.
Okay, no, that's very helpful. So that will go out to all committee members and everyone here this evening. Excellent. Yes. Okay, that's great. Assuming there's nothing else then, thank you very much for this first virtual committee meeting and first virtual decision. And
thank you very much.
Have a good evening.
Goodbye all.
Thank you.